And then we also had the shocker of yesterday. Detonation Focus Me took a historic win against the #1 seed of a major region. They beat C9, and it was the first time in the 7 years of the LJL they were able to beat a first seed of a major region.
Oh, I'm so happy to see DFM finally do it, right? They look so good, especially with the new additions to the roster. I think that for many, the introduction of Arya into the mid lane had some doubts because of how long-standing Seros is and how crucial he's been a part of this organization. But Arya stepped up, the team stepped up, and they had a huge performance yesterday.
And it's really been like a shocker for me on their level of team fighting, because event after event, we've seen this team, or at least the region, really kind of struggle in the play-ins portion of it. You know, as you already said, the first major win that they were able to have, or at least the first win versus a major region, and the ability that they had in team fights to do that around Utapon and Arya, as you mentioned. Great stuff, and it really honestly shines a highlight in their performance going on. I really want to see these guys come out.
Yeah, that's a great point. And now we are thinking further, right? Very, they didn't just win this one game. Now we're thinking, okay, can they push through and make it to the next stage? Because I think that the LGL as a region are really waiting for that.
They certainly are. I think that with the additions to their roster, in particular with Arya coming into the mid lane, I think that they've been unlocked a little bit more in terms of what they can draft, how they can approach the game. And they also have that combination of new talent and veterans that I think we've been seeing across the globe develop and evolve into strong rosters. I'm excited to see what their future looks like, and I can't wait to see and talk about them more.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about them more now. You've actually been pretty calm considering this is your favorite team, your favorite region. You've been supporting them even when it hasn't gone so well. So, Verius, turn us all into Detonation Focus Me fans.
Yeah, because the thing about the LGL is that I've always been a believer, but unfortunately, they've never really been able to deliver on the hype. But they were able to get a monumental win against Cloud9 yesterday, because the LGL have taken games off of major regions before, although far and few between. The opportunities have been there, but never have they fought a first seed and have been able to come out on top. So I want to talk a little bit about what went so well for them and why things struggled for Cloud9, starting off with the draft. So let's have a look at Cloud9's composition, because you'll see that it's actually very difficult to execute. They have this strong side top, and they also have priority in the bot. So there is options for them to actually play through the bot lane, but when you draft this Jace, it's all about the top side of the map and making sure the Fudge is set up for success. Meanwhile, DFM have got a pretty standard front-to-back team fight where they have really good engage, they have good follow-up dive, and they have pretty consistent damage coming out from the Zoe. So all they really need to do is chill out and wait for the fights. Now, our first clip looks at Blabber's early pathing. C9 can get priority in top and bot, but not mid early. So C9 have options where they want to play. C9 do have info on where Seal starts. C9 still choose to start on the bot side of the map though. The expectation is to get top, prio, and then play for the top scuttle crab. The problem with this is Udif fast clears, so he's likely always going to be 4 for this scuttle fights. Nid won't be. And while Blabber does try to get some information and try to stop it, unfortunately he's unable to do so. While this is happening, the bot lane is conceding prio, and so he realizes he's going to get double scuttled, so he feels like he has to force this. But the thing is, even though top lane has priority and can collapse, mid does not. Therefore, even though the Jace can collapse first, it does not matter. The problem with this whole thing is C9 wanted to play through top, and they end up just not being able to do that. Jace spends the rest of the early game just under his tower, and even losing it. By 10 minutes and 30 seconds, Fudge ends up dying top, and they take the top tower with the Herald. But why is this important? Well, the Drake fights. C9's comp doesn't have a great frontline. It's got good poke, some powerful CC, but with the Jace plus Nidalee combo, you need this duo to be ahead to leverage your strong poke and zoning tools. You can see a little bit of that, but then you can also see how far behind they are when this poke doesn't do anything, and Detonation Focus Me can start a fight whenever they want. Now, DFM actually misstep after this little fight, allowing for C9 to get some kills and even secure the Drake. Unfortunately for them, the same thing is not going to happen at the next Drake fight. C9 once again have really good setup on the Dragon. They deny vision and do exactly what their comp needs to do, have the enemy walk into them. You'll see they take a good chunk of damage off of Arya's HP bar, and in an ideal world, world, this is exactly what they want to do. So their setup is good. The problem is at this point in the game, their comp and the goal deficit is a little bit too much. So let's have a look now at how DFM actually execute. Oh look, Evi's here. Let's just walk into the fog of war. Let's face check everything because we don't actually need to be afraid of C9. They immediately collapse, and keep your eyes on Yulipon here. This is what Raz was talking about earlier. His positioning and execution of this fight was flawless. He drags Blabber over the wall. He's hitting perks, and notice how awkward it is for C9. Vulcan finally tries to get an engage, but now Evi has the ultimate available. He's able to land that 3-man CC, and then the rest of the team can come to follow up and clean up the fight to allow them to get this big win. DFM drafted a comfortable comp that they executed well after punishing the mistakes of Cloud9. On the other side, Cloud9 are not off to the best start here at MSI.
Our next match will feature Damwon Kia versus Detonation Focus Me, and the LJL champions have already made their mark on MSI by taking down Cloud9 yesterday. So I want to focus on these guys, especially their possible chances of making an upset here happen, and maybe looking forward to if they can make it out of the group. Raz, yesterday it was a historic victory, the first time in 7 years of LJL that a team was able to take down a #1 seed from a major region, and their young prodigy of Arya in the mid lane absolutely popped off. Oh, I can't hear Raz.
I can't hear Raz.
I hope people can hear me. Vedius will take that point.
Yeah, we've been hearing so much
hear him.
hype about him, especially when he was able to get to finally play his pick. I was really excited for him individually.
I think your audio's out of sync.
Oh no!
But it's gonna be a disaster. Okay.
No, that's not me. What are you talking about?
We're gonna cut your mic. I'm sorry. Raz. We'll come back later. So anyway, Arya, fantastic prodigy. When I talked to the LGL experts, they say this is our caps. This is the guy you need to look at. But the issue was that he didn't have the right tools necessarily. On his Zoe, he had a more self-sufficient pick, and it showed that he could perform.
I think day one, he was largely just nervous. You know, in a matchup where I think he could gain advantages, he did struggle. But as you rightly said, his Zoe performance gave him a lot more confidence. And this is a great representation in the early game of how he used his early game prior to assist his jungler, getting that early advantage, then setting up to play towards the top side of the map. But it was really the team fights, the bread and butter of the LGL that in the past was kind of their main and only strength coming into international competitions, but now it feels like it has been elevated with the addition of Arya to the mid lane and Yutapon having a fantastic positioning performance in his game versus Cloud9 yesterday.
If you're not as familiar with the LGL or with the Detonation Focus Me, rather, Yutapon is one of the legends of the region. He's the most veteran player with 512 games played on this team since they were DFM, and the second most long-standing member on a team after Mr. Faker himself.
Yep.
Exactly. And a funny bit in the bot lane as well, Kazu is actually part of their coaching staff. They're on their way to building their perfect roster, but they're dealing with some import issues at the moment, or players stepping in those import slots. So this guy's the coach. So I know we've had to say, okay, Kazu is maybe a bit coin flippy and is going ham, but that's to be expected. And I think when you consider all those things, this has been a resounding success so far, Vedius.
I mean, it certainly has. They're currently sitting at 1-1 in the group. We can arguably put day one down to nerves. The question is, will they be able to bounce back? And what do they look like against Damwon? Because the reality is that, let's say there's a world where they are able to make this upset happen. This group suddenly becomes a lot harder for teams like Cloud9 that were expected to get out, whereas Damwon, DFM, so many Ds, DFM actually have a bit of a buffer after taking down Cloud9. So I'm excited to see what they can bring out today, and Arya going up against Showmaker is just going to be a huge opportunity for him to showcase his skills.
Absolutely. So with your extensive knowledge of the LJL and specifically Detonation Focus Me, let's look holistically at the game they're going to play versus Damwon, which is going to be very difficult, but then also that day of the whole group playing that we're going to see, where they really have to beat C9 again, maybe try and beat Damwon again to make it out of this group. What are the core things you want DFM to focus on?
I think giving Arya a champion, not only that he's comfortable on, but that gives him agency and priority in the lane so that he can assist steal is going to be super important, in particular in this matchup, but also for the rest of the group stages. Because what we've come to learn is that when you have mid priority, you can do a lot with it. Like, you only have to look at the first game of the day with Xiaohu and how often he went bot lane, that it can be very impactful. So I think that giving Arya something to have agency on is going to be the big thing that allows them to...
Let's see if it happens, and we'll see if DFM have what it takes to explode on the Rift as they take on the reigning world champions, Damwon. It's time for Cloud9 versus Infinity, but first, This is so heartbreaking, and I'm just left in the middle between. They almost did it 2 times in a row. They almost even took down the world champion, and that's great. And why didn't they not finish it?
They were so close. There were a couple of mistakes. I think they gave down one too many opportunities. But honestly, in that final team fight, that black shield from Canyon that protected Ghost from being executed, I think was such a big deal, because then DFM just got a little too over-enthusiastic, one too overstep. And like the biggest thing is if they've gotten 1 or 2 kills, I don't think Down 1 ends that game. But because all 5 lived, they were able to end the game.
It's insane. Part of me, I was checking Twitter, and people, North American fans, are like, this is what we were talking about, guys. Detonation focused me. You can't sleep on them. But the other half of me was saying, please don't take that win. That makes the group much harder for Cloud9 for them to have that win over. But honestly, the fashion in which Detonation focused me, very quickly, we're actually in the lead. Obviously, Khan was just digging a grave up there. But playing through side lanes consistently, that was actually a smart way to get advantages outside of that. So there's still hope for them yet, as heartbreaking as that loss was.
The game was incredible, and I wanted the upset to happen, but Detonation focused me. Couldn't close it out, Raz.
I choose to believe Detonation focused me won. If I go back to sleep tonight, it's because you're right. They played so well, and it's just been 2 games in a row with Detonation focused me, where it feels like they are playing much smarter than I really remembered and watched when they were playing domestically. And it started with bullying Khan in the top lane. Time and time again, he didn't even need the jungle help after a while. He was just doing it solo from Evie.
I think that what, to me, this opens up the conversation about is, like, draft. And the reason why I think that's so important is, for a long time, I think the best regions in the world could draft whatever they wanted, and because they just had better players, they would just win anyway. But we're now getting to a point where the rank 1 team in every region across the world has the players to be able to manipulate and use their champions properly. And that means the draft is so much more important. So when you get a good draft against a top team, you can push them to the very limit because you know what you're doing. And the only problem for DFM was, like, in this situation, they just overcommitted. If they just let the Baron do the work for them, instead they let their emotions get the better of them. And like,
Put yourself in their shoes for a second. This is the first time that an LJL team has faced off against the #1 seed from a major region, or from one of the big 4. They managed to pick up a win yesterday. Today, they were on the verge of winning. And I was invested. I was screaming backstage because I wanted the upset to happen. Detonation focused me fell just short of defeating Damwon. I wanted that win to happen so badly, and that final dive under the inhibitor just didn't work out, Endo.
Oh, it was such a good attempt from this team. And I think you would say that 95% of the teams in this tournament would be thrilled to even get this close to beating Damwon Gaming. And ultimately, they came in with a great game plan. They really attacked around the top lane. Within fights, they were looking very, very strong. It was just a few stumbles and overreaches in the team fights where they ultimately fell short at the end.
Clement, what did you think of this performance from Detonation Focus Me?
I really think it showed that, gods can bleed as well. DK, a lot of people had said this is the go-to champion that's just going to stomp through MSI, but their early laning phase can be exploited, and we have seen this sort of shift in opinion. C9 and PSG, we heard from their post-game interviews, they now view RNG as the team to beat at MSI.
I wonder how much this will change when we advance to the next stage, because obviously the quality of your competition does have a very large impact on how the team looks. And I think, was it Canyon that said after the interview yesterday that all credit to DFM? It was because of their mistakes that allowed Damwon to win, not the other way around. It wasn't a foregone conclusion. Anyways, talking about DFM, Law caught up with their support, Kazu, to get his thoughts after the team's extremely valiant performance.
Okay.
Kazu, thank you so much for joining me for this interview. I'm so sorry it didn't work out the way you wanted to today, but you almost beat the favorites of the tournament. So I want to know more. How did you prep against Damwon, and what did you identify as the weaknesses to beat them today?
ダウンが昨年の世界王者ってことは分かってたし、でも自分たちのその超攻撃的なスタイルは世界に通用するっていう自信があったので、それを今回もぶつけてみました。
You almost beat the world champion just now, and you actually beat the first seed from NA yesterday. So what do you think it tells about the level from Day3 Nation Focus Me at MSI this year?
まあ自分たちのこの MSI の中でのレベルはまだ正直わからないんですけど、正直前半戦はまあ自分たちが日本という国がマイナーリージョンの中でまあ弱い地域だというその相手のチームの傲慢さもあったと思いますし、まあその後半戦でしっかりと相手が対策してきた中で自分たちがどれぐらいできるのかは正直まだ分かりません。ただ自分たちのプレースタイル、自分たちの LOL をしっかりと貫けばいい結果につながると信じてます。
Thank you so much for that interview, Lauren. Refreshingly frank from Kazu, talking about they don't really know where their level is, understanding and recognizing that maybe the opponents may not have taken them as seriously, but they will have a shot at revenge, and maybe Detonation Focus Me can continue to impress.